I still haven't looked at the new cards from Beyond the Brave, which this is the pack art for this set, and it's got Joey Wheeler on it. The only thing I know about these cards is that everyone, and when I say everyone, I mean literally everyone, has been complaining that these cards are bad. Everywhere on social media, everywhere I looked, I just saw people say like they did my boy Joey dirty. So we gotta find out whether that's true or not. That's the premise basically I'm going into this with. I have no idea if these cards are good. I will say I think Red Eyes is a pretty cool archetype. Besides Dragoon, I don't fuck with Dragoon. But other than that, I think the Red Eyes cards have been pretty awesome, and I would love for that deck to be viable. And historically, it's not gotten a lot of love. So I hope I'm not being disappointed, but from what I've heard online, I might be disappointed. Let's see. Swift Panther Warrior. God, I love when they retrain old classic cards. Level 4 Earth Beast Warrior, 2000 attack, 1600 defense. You can only use this card's name, this first effect once per turn. During the main phase, quick effect, you contribute one other monster from your hand or field, then activate one of these effects. Special summon a monster that mentions Dark Time Wizard from your hand or deck, except Swift Panther Warrior. Send a spell trap that mentions Dark Time Wizard from your deck to the graveyard. You cannot declare attacks unless a monster was tributed this turn. Or this card cannot... Wait, no, you cannot declare attacks. Does that mean this card cannot declare attacks, or you cannot declare attacks? I'm assuming the card. This card, okay. I mean, it's not the worst start so far. It's a 2000 normal summon, which is not the worst. And it is somewhat of a starter. Oh, it's worth noting it cannot tribute itself, so it's not a one card starter in any case. But you can tribute another card from your hand and then just pop off. I don't know what pop off means because I haven't read the other cards yet, but let's see. Alligator's Sword Dragon Knight. That is a cool artwork, like that one. Level 5 Wind Dragon, 1700 attack, 1500 defense. You can only use this card's name first and second effect once per turn each. If this card is in your hand, you can reveal one other card in your hand that mentions Dark Time Wizard. Special summon this card. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add up to 2 spell traps with different names from each other that mention Dark Time Wizard from your deck to your hand. Then discard a card, and this card can attack directly. Okay, not the worst. You know, here's the thing, right? So far, what I'm seeing here is that none of these cards are true one-card combos. In reality, I'm not upset about that because I'm, quite frankly, not really the biggest fan of the whole philosophy of like every deck needs 15 one-card combos and fills out the rest with engine requirements and hand traps. I don't mind if an archetype goes into a different direction, so I'm not too upset about this. This card seems neat to me. I mean, on special summon, you do go +1, you add 2 cards, you discard a card, that's neat. Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, it does matter a little bit how many other cards are going to mention Dark Time Wizard in your deck, because that's going to basically dictate how likely it is that you're going to brick with this card, or whether it's like live in every hand. Like if every single engine card in the archetype or in your deck is going to mention Dark Time Wizard, then it's going to be very easy to make this live. And if not, then it's going to be kind of whack. But yeah. All right, and then we have Jinzo Energy Shocker. Level 7 Dark Machine, 2400 attack, 1500 defense, of course, Jinzo stats. You can only use this card's name's second effect once per turn. This card's name becomes Jinzo while it's on the field or in the graveyard. If this card's normal or special summon, you can destroy all traps your opponent controls. If the card is set, reveal it. Then this card gains 300 attack for each card destroyed this way. Your opponent cannot activate trap cards or effects while you have another monster in your field or grave that mentions Dark Time Wizard. Okay, this seems like a mediocre card to me. This is the first one where I'm saying like, okay, this is not really that good. I mean, it's good in some matchups. So this is the kind of card that you would maybe side deck if there's a trap deck in the format. Like, let's say, I don't know, against Draco Tail or something, you could maybe think about, okay, playing this card depending on how easy it is to summon it out in the archetype, because it has no effect to summon itself and it's a level 7 monster, so that's already bad. So it's going to be a brick in your hand unless you have a very easy way to get it onto the field. This does not strike me as a main deck card. right? This is if anything in an already good deck, this could be side decked. You know, you can summon it from the deck with the Panther, but realistically, like if that's the only way to summon it, then you wouldn't play that, right? Even against a trap deck, if you are reliant on resolving this, then it's not going to be great. It really is not going to be great. Okay. Fisherman, Legend of the Sea, level 4 water warrior, 1850 attack, 1600 defense. You can only use this card's first and second effect once per turn each. If your opponent activates a monster effect on the field or when their monster declares an attack, and Umi or a card that mentions Dark Time Wizard other than Fisherman, Legend of the Sea is on the field, special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned, target a monster your opponent controls, destroy it. Also return this card on the field to the hand during the end phase of this turn. Okay. I mean, it is a pop, and that's about it. Not the worst card when you're trying to push into a board going second. Other than that, it's like a slightly worse Ghost Ogre, I suppose. But you do get a body from it. Yeah, it doesn't strike me as the most amazing card here. It's interesting that it also has the Umi thing incorporated, making it technically work in two different decks, right? Like you can play it in the Dark Time Wizard deck, or you can play it in the already existing, like I don't the Umi deck, for lack of a better word, right? The Kairyushin, Electric Jellyfish. I don't know. It's not really a deck anymore. People don't really play it anymore. But there was a time where some people tried to mess around with that. But even in that deck, it doesn't seem that great. Ooh, this card looks good. This is a cool looking card in both versions, honestly. I mean, of course, the overframe is sick, but even the regular one looks kind of badass. I like that one. Red Eyes Black Dragon Exceed, but it's a fusion monster. Level 9 Dark Dragon Fusion effect monster, 3400 attack, 3000 defense. Red Eyes Black Dragon plus a monster that mentions Dark Time Wizard. Must be either fusion summoned or special summoned from your extra deck by attributing a face-up monster on either field. During the turn, a monster was destroyed by the effect of Dark Time Wizard. You can only special summon Red Eyes Black Dragon Exceed once per turn this way, no matter which method you use. If this card is special summoned, you can special summon one level 8 or lower monster from your hand or graveyard, unaffected by your opponent's activated monster and spell effects. 3400 unaffected by monsters and spells is not bad. That is genuinely not bad. In a lot of matchups, that is going to be completely unaffected because not many decks play traps. It's always going to be weak to like Imperm, right? It's always going to be weak to Imperm, but other than that, there's going to be a couple of matchups where you simply cannot do anything about this. I guess it really depends on how you summon this, because all things considered, it is not that crazy of a card. It's just like a little bit of a tower. 3400 is not small. On summon, you get a revive, which is not terrible, but also not crazy. It depends on how easy it is to summon it. So, yeah. It looks badass though. I like this card even if it ends up not being good. I don't know. Yeah. Some Yu-Gi-Oh cards, all they need to do is look pretty, and this is one of them, I suppose. But we'll see how easy it is to summon, because so far we haven't seen the Dark Time Wizard yet. Oh, the Dark Time Wizard is a spell. Okay, I was confused because I thought like, well, we've gone through all the effect monsters. Now we're looking at a fusion. Where's the Dark Time Wizard? Dark Time Wizard is a spell card. Okay. That's not what I was expecting. Quick play spell card. Activate one of these effects, but you can only use each of these effects once per turn. Add a card that mentions Dark Time Wizard from your deck to your hand, except Dark Time Wizard. Also, add a Dark Time Wizard from your graveyard to your hand during the end phase of this turn. Okay. So it's an infinite Rhoda? Alright. Toss a coin and call it. If you call it right, destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible, and if you do, inflict damage to them equal to half those monsters' total original attack. If you call it wrong, destroy all monsters you control. Okay, so what you're saying... Wait. What you're saying is, in order to summon this with its alternative summon condition, I have to Gamba with Dark Time Wizard? Because, like, here's the thing, right? I guess the idea behind this is that no matter what happens, as long as both players control a monster, right? As long as both players control a monster, if you activate Dark Time Wizard, no matter which way it goes, you will be able to summon the fusion after. Because even if you call it wrong and you destroy your own monsters, you can then tribute an opponent's monster to summon the Red Eyes Black Dragon and also bring back one of the monsters that you destroyed on your own side of the field, right? I suppose that is the idea, right? The idea is that there is a Gamba here, right? There is a Gamba here, but no matter what happens, it's somehow gonna like work out in your favor, right? The only problem is, like, let's say you're going second and you're playing into a board and you activate, like, in order for you to guarantee that you can summon the fusion, you do need to summon a monster to your side of the field, right? Because if you can you activate this if you have no monsters? That's my question. Like, can I activate this if technically, because like if my opponent has no monsters on the field, I can't activate Raigeki, right? But it's different because with Raigeki there's no coin flip involved. Yes, you can. All right. But you cannot summon Red Eyes if you miss and have nothing to destroy. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. I'm trying to think if this is good or not. Because like it'll always do something, right? It'll always do something. It'll always get rid of some monsters on your opponent's side of the field, and you will always get the Red Eyes. No, Shirley. That's the thing, right? I'm thinking of a scenario, right, where you're playing into a board, and I think this card is bad if it's like the first spell you activate. Because if it's the first spell you activate, you have a 50% chance of it being Raigeki, and you have a 50% chance of it doing nothing, right? But in the case where, let's say you're playing into a board and you already have a play, and you start playing, and then your opponent like does something about it, and like let's say you normal summon a monster, use the effect, and then your opponent activates Imperm, and in response to the Imperm, you activate Dark Time Wizard, right? There's a few ways this could go, but I feel like in all cases this is going to be at least solid, right? Because if you destroy your own card, well, you've dodged the Imperm, you get your effect, and afterwards, because a monster has been destroyed by Dark Time Wizard, you can make the Red Eyes Black Dragon exceed by tributing an opponent's monster. Then you have an unaffected monster on the board with 3,400 that also revives the monster that you just destroyed for yourself, right? Like you basically get your monster back for free, you tribute an opponent's monster, and so on and so forth, right? Or you call it right, and then you destroy, then it's a quick play Raigeki, right? Which, funnily enough, in that instance, it's actually maybe even like better for you to destroy your own card if you're trying to dodge Imperm. But yeah. And what I'm thinking, just to finish this thought process, what I'm thinking is like that interaction, right? That specific interaction, you don't technically need to play the Joey deck for, right? This is something that you could do in technically any board breaker deck. In any board breaker approach, you could just play these two cards. The annoying part here is that you can't use the search effect for this card unless there's other good targets for it. But in theory, like, that could just be like a sort of generic... It could just be like a sort of generic engine that you play in other decks, and there's some Gamba involved, but if both outcomes are okay for you, then maybe that's fine. You know what I mean? It's a quick play, Radiant Typhoon Sky Striker. I mean, it's a quick play, so you could play it like with Vision, Droplet, Super Poly kind of like approach. It's, dude, it sounds very wacky. I feel like it sounds weird, but it might not be the worst. I think what I feel about it is like it's somewhat solid as a splash in other engines if you actually have a target for this. Because then it's also a good card in like grind games, right? Because you can just like Rhoda, end phase, go back to your hand. 3+1. If there's another good target. Because so far from what we've read, these other cards are all exclusively good in the Joey deck, right? Like, which so far from what I've seen, unironically, the Joey deck does not seem great. Like this does not strike me as, oh, this is a good deck, right? I don't feel like, so from what we've seen so far, this deck on its own doesn't seem crazy. So what I'm trying to find out right now is like, can we maybe splash these in other decks? And with the Dark Time Wizard and the Fusion Monster, I could see it. I could see it. But let's see if there's another good target for it. We have Graceful Skull Dice. Quick play spell card. Oh god, there's more Gamba. Roll a 6-sided die twice. Apply these effects in sequence for the rest of this turn. Monsters you control that mention Dark Time Wizard will gain attack and defense. Monsters your opponent controls will lose attack. Okay, this is technically a very big swing in attack points. Like, but this is obviously bad. This is obviously bad, but in theory, if you roll a 6, your monsters will all gain 1200 and all your opponent's monsters will lose 1200. That is a swing of 2400 damage per monster, like per battle pretty much. Yeah, the average roll of a 6-sided die is 3.5, so that's going to be a 1400 difference on average. Wait, twice. You rolled 2 dice, so the average is 7. So the average swing is 2800. So worst case scenario, it's 400. Best case scenario, it's you roll a 12. In which case, all your monsters gain 24, their monsters lose 24. Well, that is actually because the thing is like typically like attack and defense modifiers are not very good in Yu-Gi-Oh, right? The way the game works. But when the numbers become absurd, then maybe it could matter. But yeah, okay. If your opponent normally special summons a monster while this card's in your grave, banish this card, target one of those monsters, roll a 6-sided die twice. If the total is 6 or more, destroy that monster. Okay, we have a bonus effect in the graveyard that is also gambling. That is relatively likely though. That is definitely over 50%. 6 or more. Someone in chat said 72% to hit, which is not bad. It's far from guaranteed, right? It's far from guaranteed. 28% to miss is still rough. That means more than 1 in 4 cases you're not going to destroy the monster. But that's, yeah. Okay. There's no once per turn? I mean, yeah, sure. There's no once per turn on Graceful Skull Dice. Yeah. Yeah. Not the best card, but it's kind of wacky. Sleeping Scapegoats. Quick play spell. Special up to 4 scapegoat tokens in defense position. Then if your opponent controls a monster, you can special a Swift Panther Warrior from your deck. Also for the rest of this turn, these tokens cannot be tributed for a tribute summon. Also, you cannot special from the extra deck except fusion monsters. If a card you control that mentions Dark Time Wizard would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy one of your tokens summoned this way instead. Okay, there's a few neat things about this. It's a great card for going second because you get the Panther Warrior for free. You can't link summon with the tokens, but that's fine. You can just tribute them for the effect of Swift Panther Warrior, I suppose. The tokens themselves do not count as monsters that mention Dark Time Wizard, so they won't gain attack points from the Skull Dice. Also, they have to be in defense anyways. And also, it can protect monsters that you control from. If you ever destroy yourself with the Dark Time Wizard, you can protect some of your monsters, I suppose. Foolish Grave Robber, normal trap card. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name once per turn. Send the card that mentions Dark Time Wizard from your deck to the grave, except Foolish Grave Robber. Then you can special a monster from either grave to your field. You can banish this card from your grave. Set one of these cards to your field. Spell trap in your grave that mentions Dark Time Wizard, except Foolish Grave Robber, or a spell trap in your opponent's grave. That's not terrible. That is not terrible. It's funny. It's funny, but like this also, once again, the reason why I'm saying this card isn't bad is because I feel like this is something you could use like in general, right? Like if this card's in your grave, like if you mill it or something, you can just banish it to set a spell trap from your opponent's grave, which depending on the matchup, there's some pretty neat stuff that you can steal, right? The problem with this being a generically good card is that you do need a target in your deck in order to activate it. So like it's not just like a quick like a trap card Monster Reborn. But that part is really good when you look at this from a defensive perspective. Like being able to steal a monster out of your opponent's graveyard is good in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Not because you get a monster, but because you interrupt like graveyard effects, right? Like when your opponent tries to revive a monster, or when they send the card for cost that's about to trigger, that you take that card away. That is meaningful, right? That's a meaningful interaction. Yeah. And then after you've done this, you can also gain some future value by like stealing Halt by the Grave, talents, whatever your opponent is using. In most decks and most matchups, you're going to get a good target from this. Imperm, Dominus Spark, Dominus Impulse, Dominus Purge. You can steal all those cards, and it doesn't matter even if it's a Dominus card, because it's going to be face down on your field, so you're not going to have the drawback of, you know, no darks or whatever for the rest of the game, right? So it's neat. This card's not bad. Reversal Box, continuous trap. Once per turn during the standby phase, roll a 6-sided die, place counters on this card equal to the result, max 6. Once per battle, if an opponent's monster attacks during damage calculation or when a monster effects activate on your opponent's field, remove a counter from this card, target one of those monsters, toss a coin and call it. If you call it right, you can special a monster that mentions Dark Time Wizard from your deck, and if you do, until the end of the turn, change the targeted monster's attack to 0. Also, its effects are negated. Dude, there's so much gamba. Six negates. All you have to do is roll a 6 during the standby phase, and then call every single coin correctly, and then you have 6 negations. God, these are so whack. Okay, so I'll say it right now. I see where people are coming from with the disappointment on these. This is also not Red Eyes support, to be clear, right? This is something else. I was expecting Red Eyes support going into this. I don't know why. No one has told me that it's Red Eyes support, but this is just a new Joey deck, similar to how they made like a deck around like the Silent Magician and so on for Yugi, right? This is just Joey, the deck, right? And as it stands, I think that is not a good deck. It's got some fun gimmicks, but it's like, yeah, it's like Shining Sarcophagus, but for Joey. There's some fun cards in here. As a deck itself, I think this is a rogue deck at best, from what I'm seeing here. Unless there is more cards to come in this set. It's a fun idea. I love when they do retrains. But as a deck itself, it doesn't seem that great. It really doesn't seem that great. What I will say though is I think that this package of just playing Dark Time Wizard as like a value card together with Red Eyes Black Dragon Exceed in like a board breaker approach, I could see that working. Like maybe you play 3 copies of Dark Time Wizard, you play 1 copy of Foolish Grave Robber as your search target, and there you go, right? When you're going first with this card, what you do is you just activate it. You activate it, you search the trap. The trap can be activated because you can send Dark Time Wizard from your deck to the graveyard, because Dark Time Wizard mentions Dark Time Wizard. So you have like a target for the trap in your deck. So when you go first, you just activate the quick play spell, search the trap. In the end phase, you get the quick play spell back to your hand. So you go +1 in that sense. You have a solid trap card on your field. If your opponent manages to play into your board and it gets to turn 3, you can just use the Dark Time Wizard as a board breaker that is going to do something no matter if you call it right or wrong. So there is, of course, going to be situations where you prefer to call it right, and then there's going to be situations where you prefer to call it wrong. So they're not always equal. There is some risk attached, but you can definitely break it. It does something no matter what, right? Either you destroy your own board and then you contribute your opponent's monster to make the red eyes, or you just destroy your opponent's board and then you can still turn one of your monsters into the red eyes and get the reborn effect, right? So I could see that being a viable package, right? I could see that being the case, which is more than I expected, honestly, because of all the negativity that I saw around these cards online. I thought I was just going to read a bunch of really bad cards, which I guess it depends what you expected from this, right? Like if you expected a full-on Joey deck, then I guess you can be a little bit disappointed here. Like this deck is not going to be meta unless it gets really strong support moving forward. For now, I think what we have here is a fun little rogue deck and a package that could make its way into other decks if the format calls for it, right? But yes, this is not at all Red Eyes support. I mean, there's a Red Eyes card here that looks insane. I love that card, but it's not Red Eyes support. Obviously not, right? So yeah, that is that. Also, another thing I've been wanting to ask: is this the first time that Joey is on a pack? Because I think wasn't it always Yugi back then, or has Joey been on a pack? He's been on Joey's World. I mean, yeah, okay. I meant a core booster. I should have clarified. I meant a core booster, not legendary duelist Joey's World. Like obviously, but I feel like core sets. You know better than us, Unk. Fair enough. Can't even hate for that one. I think core sets back then all had Yugi on it, right? Yugi, Joey, and Kaiba. The early OCG boosters had Yugi, Joey, and Kaiba. Okay, for us, I think it was always Yugi. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I think the general direction that they're going right now with the new packs, I'm kind of digging it. I like that we're leaning more into like the classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Retrains and stuff. I think that is very good for the game. I think that is going to attract a lot of people. It's going to bring a lot of people back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Of course, the main thing that I feel like they're trying to balance right now is like I feel like they're trying to make these archetype, like these anime decks, a little bit simpler. Because of course, I think one of the reasons why they're leaning more into the nostalgia here is because they want to bring people back into the game. And of course, people are not going to get back into the game if the deck is giga complicated. But of course, it does mean that the power level of these is not the greatest. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. I think, honestly, I like that. I think the power level in Yu-Gi-Oh! Should be lower. But of course, if they don't do anything about the cards that are already existent and already so powerful, then the new cards are going to have a tough time keeping up with that. Which makes me hopeful for some bigger ban lists, mainly in the OCG. Like I think this is more of a problem in the OCG than in the TCG. Not to say it's not a problem in the TCG, because it is. But in the OCG is even more powerful. So bringing out like anime, like lower ceiling, multiple card combos and stuff like that, bringing that playstyle back is rough in the OCG right now. Because yeah, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's a cool idea, and at least we get some generic cards from this. At least nothing, not completely unusable, not as bad as I thought it was going to be.